so sorry for being late, Algernon. I was felt obliged to call on dear Lady Harbury. I haven't been there since her husband died. I've never seen a woman so altered. She looks positively 20 years younger. And now I'll have some of that nice tea and Cuba sandwiches you promised me.
Certainly, Aunt Augusta.
Gwendolyn, you come sit with me, please.
Thanks, Mama, but I'm quite comfortable where I am, thank you.
Good heavens, Lane. Where are the cucumber sandwiches? I ordered them specially.
There were no cucumbers in the market this morning, sir.
No cucumbers.
No, sir. Not even for ready money.
That will do, Lane. Thank you. I'm greatly disappointed, Aunt Augusta, about there being no cucumbers.
It's no concern, Algernon. I had some comfort while I was Lady Harbury, who seems to be living quite entirely for pleasure now.
I hear her hair has turned quite gold from grief.
It has changed colour, but from what I cannot say. I have a most delightful treat for you tonight. I'll be sending you down with Miss Mary Farquhar at dinner. She's such a delightful woman, so attentive to her husband. It's a delight to watch them.
I am afraid, Aunt Augusta, I shall have to give up the pleasure of dining with you tonight.
I should hope not, Algernon. If you're not there, it'll put my table entirely out. Your poor uncle will have to dine upstairs, although he has grown accustomed to that.
It is a great bore, and I need hardly say a terrible disappointment to me, but the fact is I have just received a telegram from my poor friend Bunbury. He is dreadfully ill again.
It's strange. This Mr. Bunbury has curiously bad health.
Yes, poor Bunbury is a dreadful invalid.
Well, I must say, I think it is high time that Mr. Bunbury made up his mind as to whether he was going to live or die. The shilly-shallying with the question is absurd, nor do I in any way approve of this modern sympathy for invalids. Health is the primary concern of life, as I keep informing your poor uncle, although he never seems to take much notice in concern to his ailment. I'd be obliged if you would ask Mr. Bunbury, for me, to not have a relapse on Saturday, for I require you to arrange the music for my reception. It is my last reception, after all, and one wants something that will encourage conversation, especially at the end of the season, when one has said pretty much everything they have to say, which in most cases was not much.
I'll speak to Bunbury, Aunt Augusta, if he is still conscious, and I think I can promise you he'll be all right by Saturday. Of course, the music is a great difficulty. You see, if one plays good music, no one will listen, and if one plays bad music, no one will talk. However, I'll run over the program I've drawn out if you will kindly come into the next room with me.
Thank you, Algernon. You're so kind. French songs I was simply not allowed, for they, by most folks, seem improper, and neither look shocked, which is vulgar, or laugh, which is worse. German, I think, is a thoroughly respectable language, and I believe it is so. Gwendolyn, you will accompany me?
Certainly, Mama. The moment Algernon first mentioned to me he had a friend called Ernest, I knew I was destined to love you.
You really love me, Gwendolyn?
Passionately.
Darling, you don't know how happy you make me.
My own Ernest.
But you don't really mean to say that you wouldn't love me if I wasn't named Ernest.
But your name is Ernest.
I mean, yes it is, but suppose it was something different. Would you still love me then?
Ah, that is clearly a metaphysical speculation, and like most metaphysical speculations, has very little reference to the actual facts of real life as we know them.
Personally, darling, to speak quite candidly, but I don't think the name of Ernest suits me at all.
It suits you perfectly. It's a divine name. It has a music of its own. It produces vibrations.
Well, Gwendolyn, to say this personally, I think there are much nicer names out there. I think, for instance, Jack. Jack is a very charming name.
Jack? Oh no, Jack has very little music to it, if any at all. Indeed, it does not thrill, it produces absolutely no vibrations. I've known several men by the name of Jack, and I have to say that they were all, without exception, more than usually plain. Besides, Jack is a notorious domesticity for the name of John, and I pity any woman who's married to a man called John. She would probably never get to know the entrancing pleasure of a single moment's solitude. The only truly safe name is Ernest.
Gwendolyn, I must get christened immediately. I mean, we must get married immediately. There's no time to be lost.
Married, Mr. Worthen?
Well, surely. You know that I love you, and you made it quite apparent to me, Miss Fairfax, that you are not absolutely indifferent to me as well.
Well, I adore you, but you haven't proposed to me yet.
Well, may I propose to you now?
I think it would be an admirable opportunity, but to spare you any possible disappointment, Mr. Worthing, I must tell you beforehand that I'm very determined to accept you.
Gwendolyn,
Yes, what have you got to say to me, Mr. Worthing?
you know what I've got to say to you.
Yes, but you don't say it.
Gwendolyn, will you marry me?
Of course I will, darling. How long you've been about it. But I'm afraid you have very little experience in how to propose.
Well, I've never loved anyone in the world but you, Gwendolyn.
Yes, but men often propose for practice. I know my brother Gerald does because all my girlfriends tell me so. Oh, what wonderfully blue eyes you have, Ernest. They are quite blue. I hope you'll always look at me just like that, especially when there are other people present.
Mr. Worthing, please rise from that semi-recumbent posture. It is quite indecorous. And scene. So we're done.